the mystery of Rh negative blood. What does the absence of the rhesus monkey factor mean? No solid scientific explanation exists as to how or why Rh negative blood came about. It's presumed to be the result of a random mutation. Have you ever felt you were weird or different? It may be due to your DNA. 85% of humans have the monkey gene Rh positive, and 15% do not. They have Rh negative, and maybe have an alien gene instead. Rh negative people are characterized by higher IQs, sensitive vision, lower body temperatures, sensitivity to heat and sunlight, psychic power, ability to stop watches and electrical appliances, and have extra vertebrae as well. Extra vertebrae, yes. Of the human blood types, O is the most common. It is a universal blood type. Blood types are further broken down into two groups, negative and positive. This is called the Rh factor. The Rh factor is the rhesus. Rhesus is a monkey, the blood factor. And if your blood tests positive for this, you have a factor in your blood. If you test negative, you do not have the factor in your blood. The Rh factor is a protein found in the human blood that is directly linked to the rhesus monkey. When blood type is inherited from your parents, it's known that this factor element of the blood is the most consistent human and animal characteristic passed on to the offspring. There are very few aberrations, and it rarely changes. Most people, about 85%, have Rh positive blood, and that could support the idea that humans evolved or were derived from primates. 15% of humans have Rh negative blood, and if blood type is one of least mutable human characteristics, where did the Rh negative come from? This question has puzzled scientists for years. There is some evidence that suggests the Rh negative blood group may have appeared about 35,000 years ago, and the appearance was regional and seemed to originally be connected with certain groups, tribes of people. Northern Spain and southern France is where you can find some of the highest concentrations of Rh negative factor in the Basque people. Another origin group were the Eastern Oriental Jews. In general, about 40 to 45% of Europeans have the Rh negative group. Only about 3% of African descendants and about 1% of Asian or Native American descendants has the Rh negative group. Due to the larger European numbers, it is a safe bet that was where it was introduced into the human genetic code. Could this also be where the Caucasian was introduced? Is the introduction of Caucasian related to the Rh blood factor? If the Rh negative factor is a normal presentation of blood, then why is there a problem when a mother of Rh negative blood groups gives birth to Rh positive blood group baby? This hemolytic disease, actually an allergic reaction, can cause death when the two different blood type groups are mingled during pregnancy. When the antigen substances attack the negative blood group, it can destroy the blood cells. So why does the human body produce antigens to this blood type? Is the blood group alien? The only other time this occurs in nature is, as an example, when donkeys and horses are crossed to produce mules. This is not natural because left alone in the wild, these animals would never crossbreed. Only with intervention would this happen. Where was there a crossbreeding of two human-like beings, similar but genetically different? When people with Rh negative blood have certain characteristics that seem to be common among the majority, here is a brief list of the most common. Extra vertebra, higher than average IQ, more sensitive vision and other senses, lower body temperature, higher blood pressure, increased occurrence of psychic and intuitive abilities, predominantly blue, green, or hazel eyes, red or reddish hair, has increased sensitivity to heat and sunlight, cannot be cloned, alien abduction and other unexplained phenomena, So what does this mean, and what can be concluded? The appearance of Rh-negative blood did not follow the usual evolutionary path. In fact, evolution would seem to be ruled out as a possible cause of the anomaly, and it has been proven that blood is the least likely to mutate. There are no other blood mutations. The introduction of Rh-negative blood types was not a naturally occurring part of human evolution, and this would lend credence to the Rh-negative factor was introduced from an outside source. Could the source be from human-like beings or from another planet? Or maybe we are just as alien as they are, in that we are a product of their manipulation and interference. Could they have come here and manipulated life forms already present on Earth to create modern man? Many ancient texts, including the Bible, do support this theory. Many stories in the ancient texts, especially pre-Christian texts, do tell about a race that from the heavens to the earth came, and they created man in their image. Man saw them as gods, living long lives and performing miracles, flying about in the sky ships and shooting fire and creating ear-shattering booms. The humans watched as these gods built massive and glorious houses and created beautiful cities for themselves. From man's primitive point of view, they were gods, but that was early man's point of view. Now, who were the gods? The ancient stories tell us a lot about these gods. They obviously had advanced technology capable of space travel and air travel. They knew about aviation, metallurgy, the universe, the cosmic progression, medicine, and evidently genetics. One example is, of course, the Atlanteans. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth, the Atlantean who wrote them, tells us about all these advanced knowledges that they had. Now, they knew about atomic energy and weapons that used them. Evidence of this can be found on Earth. They knew about agriculture and how to create more nutritious grains and other food staples. All of the basic grains that humans rely on for food have been determined to have all appeared at the same time, spanning roughly a 10,000-year period. A very short time, geologically speaking, and no new grain has since been developed. Our ancient texts tell us they began to take humans for their spouses. The Bible says, and the gods looked upon women and found her pleasant to behold and took her as their wives. They had children, many children, but not all humans were as a result of interbreeding. The first human was a result of scientific research combined primates with God's genes, and the first humans were not a product of interbreeding, but small portions of humans are a result of this interbreeding, and their blood type can support this. In the first part of this article, I described to you what happens when two species who similar but genetically different interbreed. They produce hybrids. The example I gave was about horses, donkeys, and mules. Mules are a hybrid. They produce the product of a union between a horse and a donkey. However, mules are born sterile because there is no genetic relationship between the horse and the donkey. When humans were first created, they were a product of two genetically similar but not related species. The combination of the DNA of the primates and the gods was produced artificially in a lab. If the gods have the technology to create a new species, they would have no problem overcoming the problem of the hybrids being sterile. A little genetic manipulation and it would no longer be an issue. 3 prototypes of humans were created, each one successively more advanced, 2 types by design and the last by chance. Neanderthal man is suspected of being an early humanoid created by the gods, but Cro-Magnon was definitely a product of their intervention. And the next type is whom we call pre-human, and then we have modern man. Modern man was a result of the interbreeding between the gods and pre-humans. This interbreeding, for the most part, created no problems in the resulting offspring except for a line that inherited from their godly parents the Rh-negative blood type. This is supported by the fact that these humans did not inherit the protein found in the blood that is directly linked to the rhesus monkey. They did not inherit it because one of the parents did not have the monkey protein. This protein is present only because combined primate DNA with DNA from the gods, created an original human prototype that carried the monkey protein. So in conclusion, I suggest that man is a creation of a highly technological race of human-like beings that from the heavens to the earth came. I suggest that these advanced beings are still among us today and are still very active in the affairs of man. To what end, I cannot suggest. Global blood suppliers managed to infect or kill 90% of hemophiliacs in the world by providing them with tainted blood. If hemophiliac is a royal disease, woe to the generations of boys who could not be king. Worldwide, over 120,000 men, women, and boys, a true genetic holocaust, are now infected with HIV worldwide due to tainted blood transfusions. At least 25,000 have left. In some areas, the Rh negative blood factor is referred to as the blood royal or royal blood. For centuries, European royalty have been inflicted with hemophilia or bleeder's disease. Apparently, Queen Victoria was a carrier of hemophilia and gave it to all of her children, who then intermarried and infected their bloodlines of every throne in Europe during the 1800s and 1900s. As a result, hemophilia became known as the royal disease. To keep this in perspective, only about 5% of all royalty have Rh negative factor, negative blood, which means less than the general population. Only 5% have Rh negative blood. That would indicate that the vast majority of rulers and monarchs are not rhesus factor negative. Is that by chance or by genetic engineering called arranged marriages? For all practical purposes, the cultural group with the highest rates of Rh negative blood are the Berbers of Morocco. They live in northern Egypt and Africa, Morocco. In the earlier meme, I indicated that the highest concentration of Rh factor negative was from Iraq. It seems that the Berbers may actually have originated thousands of years ago from the border of Syria and Iraq. If European royalty are not disposed to intermarriage with Rh negatives, it may be because they are avoiding the Arab bloodlines. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It appears that the Basque Rh negative factors come from ancient Berber seafarers as early as 8,000 BC, over 10,000 years ago. Perhaps many of the cave paintings may be attributed to strangers of great artistic ability that migrated into the area. Is hypercreativity a symptom of Rh negative blood? Artists, entertainers, who knows? But if European royalty refused to marry into Rh negative bloodlines, it means one thing. Rh negative people are a competing royal line. So how do you get rid of it once and for all? Although the British would love for you to think that Victoria was the world's first carrier, don't be confused. It was the Habsburgs' disease. Was Victoria a Habsburg? The unofficial motto of the Habsburg family was Bella Gurent Ali tu Felix Austria Nubis. It means where others must fight wars, you, fortunate Austria, marry. It's curious that marriage can be a dynastic undertaking, but it can also be a perverse form of biowarfare or genetic warfare. In fact, the disease was much more ancient. The father of surgery was El-Zarhawi or Al-Bukassis from 1013 to 1106 AD. Al-Bukassis described a family where only males died from blood loss after the most trivial of injury, meaning hemophiliacs, right? His full name was Abu Qasim Khalaf ibn al-Abbas al-Zahrawi. He was born and brought up in Zoro, a royal suburb of Cordova, the Arabic Cordoba, the capital of Muslim Spain. And as we know from the history, Zahra competed in grandeur and magnificence with Baghdad. Al-Zahrawi served in the capacity of the court physician to King Al-Hakam II of Spain. After a long and distinguished medical career, he died in 1013 AD. As an inventor of many surgical instruments, al-Zahrawi is famous for developing instruments for internal examination of the ear, internal inspection of the urethra, and for applying or removing foreign bodies from the throat. He introduced such new procedures as cauterization of wounds, crushing stones inside the bladder, and vivisection and dissection. He applied cauterization procedures to as many as 50 different operations. In addition, al-Zahrawi discussed the preparation of medicines and the application of such techniques as sublimation and decantation. He prescribed the use of diuretics, sudorifics, purgatives, and the absorption of pure wine with hot baths. The al-Zahrawi was the first to give detailed description of hemophilia and was the first to use silk thread for stitching wounds. So you begin to wonder if the good doctor was treating an Arab family in Moorish Spain for the disease. Then you begin to wonder just where a supposed blue blood like Victoria got her Arab royal disease. Was it a disease of Spanish royalty? In other words, was marriage to Victoria's daughters a way to kill or weaken future non-Habsburg kings, since mostly males only contract the disease from their mothers? Still, hemophilia was a royalty long before Queen Victoria of England. Victoria's daughters passed the disease into the Spanish, German, and Russian royal lines, threatening the thrones of all Europe's major powers. It would appear that Victoria is actually a direct descendant of Ferdinand of Castile, who retook the city of Castile in 1236, where the surgeon Abalcazes had consulted King Hakam II about a family whose sons died easily. What's the connection between hemophilia, Rh negatives, AIDS, and royal blood? As you can see, the vast majority of Rh negative people come from the Basque people of France and Spain, and then Europe has the second highest percentage. We can surmise that the Rh negative blood type originates out of Europe and has spread over to other countries that contain European ancestry heritage. The Rh negative recessive alleles, plus or minus, make up approximately 60% of the Basque people and 40% of the Europeans. So that means that a higher percentage of Rh positive people in Europe are carrying the genetics of Rh negative factor in their DNA. No one has tried to explain where Rh negative people came from. Most familiar with blood factors admit that these people must at least be a mutation, if not descendants of a different ancestor. If we are mutation, what caused the mutation? Why does it continue with the exact characteristics? And why is it so violently why does it reject the Rh factor? If it was in their own ancestry, who was this ancestor? Difficulties in determining ethnology are largely overcome by the use of blood group data, for they are a single gene characteristic and not affected by the environment, of course. The Basque people of Spain and France have the highest percentage of Rh negative blood. About 30% have Rh negative and 60% carry one R negative gene. The average among most people is only 15% Rh negative, while some groups have very little. The Oriental Jews of Israel also have a high percentage of Rh negative, although most other Oriental people only have about 1% Rh negative. The Sumerians and the Black Cochin Jew also have a high percentage of Rh negative blood, although again the Rh negative blood is rare among most black people. The Basque people are also known for having the oldest language in Europe, and the origins of the Basque language are unknown. The languages in neighboring countries in Europe show no resemblance to the Basque language, so this has become a real mystery to the linguist. The Celtic people of Ireland and Great Britain, or the Celts, have also high incidences of Rh minor negative factor, and has recently been proven that there is a genetic link between the Basque and the Celts. This research proves that the Celtic people came from the Basque regions of France and Spain, and a group must have migrated over to the islands of Great Britain, and with this research I can surmise that my family got this distinct blood type from our French and Irish ancestry roots. Genes linking Celts to the Basques. The Welsh and the Irish Celts have been found to be the genetic blood brothers of the Basques, scientists revealed. The gene patterns of the three races passed down through the male line are all strikingly similar, researchers conclude, statistically indistinguishable. He and his colleagues looked at Y chromosomes passed from father to son of Celtic and Norwegian populations, and they found them to be quite different. Quote, but we also noticed that there's something quite striking about the Celtic populations, and that is that there's not a lot of genetic variation on the Y chromosome, he said. To try to work out where the Celtic population originally came from, the team from UCL, the University of Oxford, and the University of California at Davis also looked at Basques. Professor Golden said, on the Y chromosome of the Celtic population turns out to be statistically indistinguishable from the Basques. Why are people calling Rh negatives blue bloods? Well, again, a special thing happens between the Rh negative mother and the second Rh positive baby. As you may remember, the Rh negative mother builds up antibodies against the Rh positive baby, and this means that the baby's blood will start to agutilate, and before the Rh-GAM shot, babies were born blue, and they needed to have blood transfusions to survive. Blue blood is an expression from the Spanish phrase sangre azul, indicating noble birth or descent. This is said to derive from the fact that the native Spanish had fairer skin, which displays veins more prominently than people of Arab origin. After the Moorish occupation of Spain, intermarriage occurred. The result seems to have been that the aristocracy, particularly certain families in Castile, who would not mix with the Moors, showed rather bluer blood vessels, in, for example, the back of the hand, than the ordinary folk. So the phrase blue blood came to refer to the blood which flowed in the veins of the oldest and most aristocratic families. The phrase was taken over into English in the 1830s, and by the time Anthony Trollope used it in The Duke's Children in 1880, it had become common. This is from Bended Reality, and I'll leave a link below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.